You bought the plant. You followed the instructions on the little plastic tag. You watered it. You gave it sunlight. Maybe you even talked to it. Don't be embarrassed. We all do it, and yet, your Jasmine just sat there. Looking sad, maybe growing a little, but producing absolutely zero of that legendary fragrance that made you want it in the first place. It smells like nothing, like a green stick with ambitions it can't fulfill. And here's what I want to tell you first, before anything else. That is not your fault. The advice that gets passed around about Jasmine on garden center tags, in basic tutorials, even from well-meaning neighbors, is surface level, generic, and honestly, it sets you up to fail. It treats Jasmine like it's just another houseplant you can throw in a pot and forget about. But Jasmine is not a passive plant. It is a drama queen with a specific agenda, and once you understand what it actually wants, it will reward you with a fragrance so powerful, your neighbors will knock on your door asking what's blooming. Now, I'm going to give you 7 secrets today, and I need you to stay for secret number 3. Because it is the single most counterintuitive piece of advice in this entire video, and it's the one that will completely transform a Jasmine that's been underperforming for years. Most people hear it and think I'm joking. They try it anyway, and then they come back completely converted. Let's get into it. Secret number 1. Stop treating it like it lives where you live. Here's the first mindset shift you need to make. Jasmine is native to warm, subtropical and tropical regions. We're talking the Mediterranean, South Asia, parts of China. It evolved in places where summers are long, hot, and intense. So when you plop it into a spot in your garden that gets pretty good sun, you're basically asking a sun worshipper to thrive under fluorescent office lighting. Jasmine does not want good sun. It wants aggressive, relentless, almost violent sun. The rule is a minimum of 6 hours of direct sunlight per day. And when I say direct, I mean direct, not filtered through a sheer curtain, not dappled through tree leaves. Not it gets morning sun, and then shade. Full, blazing sun. Here's the test. Stand at your planting spot at noon, the harshest hour of the day. Is the sun hitting you directly in the face with zero interruption? That's the spot. If you're squinting into shade, your Jasmine will survive, but it will never truly perform. A Jasmine plant in weak sun is like a singer with stage fright, technically alive. Technically functional, but holding back the thing that makes it extraordinary. If you're in a cooler climate, plant it against a south-facing wall or fence. That wall absorbs heat all day and radiates it back at night. You're essentially creating a microclimate, a little pocket of warmth that tricks your Jasmine into thinking it's in the Mediterranean. This single move can add weeks to your blooming season. Secret number 2. The soil isn't what you think it is. Almost everyone overcomplicates Jasmine soil. You go online, you read about pH levels and organic matter and drainage ratios, and suddenly you're doing chemistry homework for a plant. Let me simplify this drastically. Jasmine hates 2 things: soggy feet and starvation. That's it. Everything else is details. The soggy feet problem is the most deadly. Jasmine roots sitting in waterlogged soil will rot quietly underground while the plant above looks fine until suddenly it doesn't. Until suddenly it collapses like a building whose foundation gave out 3 months ago and nobody noticed. If you've ever had a Jasmine that was doing great and then just died for no obvious reason, wet roots is almost certainly the culprit. The fix is simple and non-negotiable. Your soil must drain fast. If you're planting in the ground, dig your hole, fill it with water, and watch how quickly it drains. If the water is still sitting there after an hour, you need to amend with perlite or coarse sand, roughly 1 part amendment to 2 parts existing soil. If you're in a pot, throw away any decorative potting mix that feels heavy and dense when wet, and replace it with a cactus and succulent blend mixed with regular potting soil at a 50-50 ratio. It sounds wrong for a flowering vine. It is completely correct. Now, starvation. Jasmine is a heavy bloomer. And blooming takes energy. And energy requires food. During the growing season, spring through early fall, you want to be feeding this plant every 2 weeks with a fertilizer that is high in phosphorus. Phosphorus is the middle number on the fertilizer label. You want that number to be the biggest of the three. Phosphorus is the bloom fuel. Nitrogen, the first number, grows green leaves. Beautiful, lush, utterly fragrance-free green leaves. So if you've been using a standard balanced fertilizer and wondering why you have a gorgeous green vine with no flowers, you've been feeding it the wrong meal. Secret number 3. You have to stress it out. This is the one I promised you. This is where people look at me like I've lost my mind. If your jasmine is comfortable, it will not bloom aggressively. You need to stress it deliberately, strategically, on purpose. Here's the biology behind it. Jasmine, like many flowering plants, produces its most intense blooms when it believes its survival is slightly at risk. It's an evolutionary response. The plant thinks, conditions are getting tough, I need to reproduce, I need to flower, I need to set seed now before things get worse. Comfort, paradoxically, tells the plant everything is fine. Take your time, no urgency. There are 2 ways to stress jasmine into explosive blooming, and both feel deeply wrong until you see the results. First, water stress. In the weeks leading up to your expected bloom season, late winter to early spring for most varieties, you pull back on watering significantly. Not to the point of wilting, not to the point of the leaves going crispy, but to the point of the soil going genuinely dry between waterings. We're talking stick your finger 2 full inches into the soil, and if you feel any moisture at all, don't water yet. Wait, let it get thirsty. A slightly thirsty jasmine is a motivated jasmine. Second, temperature stress, specifically cold nights. This is the one that shocks people the most. Jasmine needs a period of cool, even cold nights to trigger its bloom cycle. If your jasmine has been inside a warm house or in a warm greenhouse all winter, it has had zero incentive to prepare for flowering. Many experienced growers put their potted jasmine outside on cool autumn nights, even when temperatures dip close to the edge of what the plant can tolerate. Not to freeze it, just to tell it, winter is coming, you should probably flower soon. 2 to 4 weeks of cool nights, down into the 40s Fahrenheit or the low single digits Celsius, and you will see bud set happen like a switch flipping on. Comfortable jasmine, decent. Slightly stressed jasmine, transcendent. Secret number 4. Prune like you mean it. Here is the moment where I ask you to be brave. Because the pruning advice most people get about jasmine is trim it back a little after it blooms. And that advice produces mediocre results. What produces extraordinary results is pruning that, the first time you do it, will make you feel like you've committed a crime against nature. After your jasmine finishes its main bloom flush, cut it back by 1/3. Minimum, sometimes half. I know how it looks. You're essentially taking a thriving, flowing vine and hacking it into something that resembles a crime scene. Your neighbors will stare. You will doubt yourself. A Tuesday in July will feel like the worst gardening decision you've ever made. But here's what's happening underneath. All the energy the plant was spending on maintaining all that leafy, sprawling growth now has nowhere to go except into new growth. And new growth is where jasmine blooms. Jasmine only flowers on new wood, meaning stems that grew during this current season. An old, unpruned jasmine that you've been being kind to for 3 years is a vine covered in old wood that will never bloom properly again. It's wearing a pretty dress over a frame that's given up. Hard pruning tells the plant to rebuild from scratch, and the new wood it produces will be loaded with bloom sites for the following season. Additionally, cutting back reduces the density of the vine, which improves airflow, which, and here's the bonus, actually amplifies the fragrance because the plant isn't having to push scent through a jungle of its own leaves. One more pruning note: remove any dead, crossing or inward-facing stems immediately, any time of year. No mercy. These are passengers stealing resources from the stems that are actually going to perform. Secret number 5. Train it up. Not out a lot of people grow jasmine as a ground cover or let it sprawl across a low fence, and then wonder why the fragrance seems to just evaporate before it reaches them. Here's a physics lesson disguised as gardening advice. Fragrance rises. The volatile aromatic compounds that make jasmine smell like jasmine are lighter than air. They drift upward and outward. So if your jasmine is at shin height, the fragrance is rising up and getting dispersed before your nose ever encounters it. You're essentially growing a scent machine and pointing it at the ground. Train your jasmine to grow vertically, at nose height and above. Grow it up a trellis, up a pergola, over an arbor you walk underneath, along a fence that's at least 5 to 6 feet tall. When you walk through a garden where jasmine is growing overhead, where the blooms are literally at face level or above, the scent hits you like a wall of perfume. It is one of the most extraordinary sensory experiences a garden can offer. Growing it low is like turning your speakers to face the floor. The technique is straightforward. As new vines emerge, guide them upward and tie them loosely to your support structure using soft garden ties or strips of old pantyhose. Yes, pantyhose. It's gentle and flexible, and it works brilliantly. Never wrap vines tightly around a support. Always loop and tie. Wire or rigid ties can cut into the stem as the vine grows and thickens, which girdles it and slowly kills that branch. Loose ties that allow the stem room to breathe will keep your vine healthy and growing aggressively upward. Secret number 6. Know your jasmine, because not all of them smell. This is the secret that would have saved a lot of people a lot of time and heartbreak if they'd known it before they bought their plant. There are over 200 species of jasmine, and a significant number of them have no fragrance whatsoever. 0. None. They flower beautifully. They look like jasmine. They're sold at garden centers next to their fragrant cousins with no distinguishing label, and they will never, ever produce the scent you were expecting. This is the single most common reason people come to me and say I've done everything right and my jasmine doesn't smell. They have the wrong jasmine. So here's the short list of the varieties you actually want if fragrance is your goal. Jasminum officinale common or poet's jasmine. This is the classic. White flowers, intense traditional jasmine scent, reliable bloomer. This is what perfumers use. Jasminum sambac, Arabian jasmine. Smaller plant, often grown in pots. The fragrance is warmer, heavier, more exotic. This is what jasmine tea is made from. Jasminum polyanthum pink jasmine. One of the most vigorous and cold hardy. The flowers are white with pink buds, and the fragrance in late winter and spring is extraordinary. If you're in a cooler climate, this is likely your best bet. Jasminum grandiflorum royal or Spanish jasmine. Larger flowers, the fragrance is rich and slightly fruity. Any variety not on a list like this, and especially anything sold under names like star jasmine without Latin species identification, may look like jasmine, but isn't producing the essential oils that make your yard unforgettable. Before you buy, smell it if you can. If the nursery has a blooming specimen, walk up to it and inhale. The right plant will tell you immediately. Secret number 7. The evening rule nobody talks about. You've done everything right. You've got the right variety. The perfect sun, the stressed and pruned and vertically trained vine. And then someone asks you, when should I go out and smell it? And you say, oh, whenever it's always flowering. That is incorrect. And it's costing you the best moments this plant has to offer. Jasmine fragrance peaks in the evening and early night. This is not a preference or a fun fact, it's biology. Jasmine is primarily pollinated by moths, which are nocturnal. So the plant has evolved to release the bulk of its aromatic compounds at dusk and into the night when its pollinators are active. During the heat of midday, the fragrance is significantly muted. The plant is essentially saving its performance for the right audience. This means two things practically. First, your seating areas, your dining terrace, your bedroom window, that's where jasmine should be growing, not in a far corner of the yard where you only walk past during afternoon gardening. Plant it where you spend your evenings. Over the patio table, along the fence beside the back porch, outside a window you open at night. You want the evening air to carry that fragrance to wherever you naturally are when the sun goes down. Second, if you want to cut jasmine for indoor fragrance, cut it in the late afternoon, just before the evening fragrance surge begins. Bring those stems inside, put them in a vase on your bedside table or your kitchen counter, and when evening comes, that scent will fill the room. Cut them in the morning, and you'll get maybe 20% of that experience. The timing is everything. So here's the full picture in one sentence. Jasmine is not a passive plant. It rewards those who give it intensity. Challenge it deliberately, position it strategically, and understand what it actually is. Sun, fast-draining soil. The right fertilizer, deliberate stress, hard pruning, vertical training, the right variety, and then standing outside on a warm evening while the air does something that honestly makes you question why you ever bought anything from a candle store. If this video helped you, and especially if secret number 3 made you nervous and then curious, hit subscribe, because we drop a new episode every week on exactly these kinds of things. Plants and techniques and garden strategies that people swear are too hard or too complicated, and that turn out to be completely achievable once someone explains what's actually going on. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Do you already have jasmine growing? And has it been performing the way you hoped? Tell me what variety you have, where you've got it planted, and what results you're seeing. I read every single comment. I respond to as many as I can, and your questions genuinely shape what I cover next. Go stress your jasmine. It'll thank you for it.